Oh yeah, that's me, baby. How y'all doing? Welcome to a little BrassReel tonight live streams, movie reviews, movie discussions, movie talks, news talks. Well, we're going to be talking about the Friday the 13th prequel coming straight to Peacock, and it's going to be a series. So joining me as always, my partner in crime, can of spam, Andrew. What it do?
Yes.
Oh yeah, baby, yeah. So, dude, what about this? You know what's funny is this news came out like 2 days ago, and I didn't even see it.
Yeah,
Wow, I've been so
this is
busy.
breaking news. You know, it's 2 days old, but it's breaking news.
Dude, yeah, it's definitely breaking news, and I can't believe that they're going to go with the prequel route. I
Yeah,
mean,
man. Okay, I said this to you in a text. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm gonna watch it. It's A24 Studios, which that's. I mean, they're doing some good shit. Um, but and Friday the 13th. Anyone who's a fan is gonna watch it. I'm already very curious what they're gonna do. But I got to be honest, and they know this. What people want to see from a Friday the 13th film or series um, is adult Jason, the iconic stuff about it, the iconic lore of Friday the 13th is the hockey mask, the machete, and adult Jason. Nobody gives a shit about Jason's mom and a prequel to her and what she did in part one. And nobody cares about Jason as a little boy.
okay,
I just don't know. But I think that they already know what they're doing, and I think that I don't know. I think they will do something cool. The hope is that they do something, that's so like unexpected and cool. But it's not gonna be adult Jason.
well, I'll tell you. Here's my first fear. They don't need to be making no series out of this. If you need to do a prequel, just make a movie. Like a slasher series. I mean, look, the reason the slasher series works, and I mean like the series that's called Slasher.
Yeah, it's an anthology, by the way. It's really good. I actually
Yeah,
like it.
and that works because it's actually kind of going for on the nose of the genre itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's this sort of this huge gamut of inspiration for it to pull from. Because it's like let's just do a movie about the genre of or do a show about the genre of slashers. But if this is like supposed to take place and like you were saying, there's no Jason, and how long could the mother have been doing this? Like, now here's the deal. This is where they might cure, or let's say it like Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is where they might cure the whole idea that, well, if part one took place in the 80s, and then how is he all of a sudden 20 something years old? Well, maybe this is going to take care of that and say, oh, the mom did this for years and years and years and years. And so the whole thing that happened in the first one, the next day, maybe it was just a few more years too. That's why it was another Friday the 13th or something. You know what I'm saying? Like they could, because there's some timeline issues and plot holes that people complain about. It doesn't bother me because they're slashers, and I just like the fact that they made Jason a thing after part one. But there are people that have complaints with that.
Well, we're gonna get there's gonna be a lot of chatter and a lot of talk about continuity, and as if it's written in canon that Jason was only a bad guy when he became adult Jason. What if he was the disfigured kid who was also killing people before he drowned, and kind of put a whole new spin on what we believed what was the premise of part one, which was, the counselors were mean to my boy and watched him drown. Well, what if this one is actually your disfigured, special son was a fucking demon child, apparently, and I don't know. I mean,
I mean, there could be something to that. I mean, I'm not saying that they won't go that route. My only thing is, and if my eyes are wandering right now, it's because I'm looking for something to put a picture to post in here. But My only thing is that they're using Victor Miller, or Victor Miller is producing this. He's an executive producer. And part of that lawsuit, I think, of what they'd settled on is that he's got control of Friday the 13th, and Sean S. Cunningham has control of Jason and the hockey mask.
So, but yeah, they're all working together on this, which I don't know that
I don't think that they are, though. I don't think that Sean S. Cunningham is. I think it's just Victor Miller. And I think Sean S. Cunningham is going to do his Jason movie still, his new Jason movie that he's been talking about. So he's not a part of this. It's just Victor Miller. So this is why I'm saying they're doing a prequel and they're not doing the Jason stuff. There will be no Jason in this. I'm almost positive of that. And if there is, he'll be just the little boy that we saw that was in part one. Not now, if they make him a killer as a kid running around, I mean, that was not his idea. That was Sean S. Cunningham and their crew's idea. So I just don't see them doing that. I see them leave. I mean, Jason will be in this. The boy will. Now maybe they'll make it to where the counselors did some pretty bad things. Maybe they'll show like a really terrible death of what happened to Jason. Maybe they'll show him getting picked on by the counselors before he drowned. You know what I mean? And that was part of the whole cruelty. And again, I don't know if this is going to be 2 seasons, 3 seasons. It could just be a 1-season endeavor. And if it is, then all it really needs to be is sort of what happens before part 1.
Yeah, and maybe even tie it into the beginning of part 1.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like an ending as like there's like maybe the sheriff or something of that town is talking about like, man, this place is about to open up for the first time in so and so many years, and have some counselors here. And then of course that's the first film. But I mean, maybe they just show her snapping for the first time. Maybe that those people that we saw, well, we know that maybe it's definitely, it did happen before the first movie because she killed those kids in the very beginning that were singing Kumbaya and Milk and Honey on the other side. And then they go upstairs to start messing around. They got the yellow shirts on. And then there's that POV shot of the girl going like that. You know?
Yeah.
And so, she had killed counselors before the counselors got killed in the first movie with Kevin Bacon and all them. So maybe it'll be that story.
Yeah.
It'll be about when she first snaps because the group that she killed the first time.
Which, I mean, do you think that's going to work because we're going to know who the killer is already? And that kind of just takes away from who, like the who done it.
I mean, they have to. I feel like you kind of have to introduce something there that was never there before, or is it going to be that why Smallville was fun? We knew what was going on with Smallville. There was no surprise of what was going on. Even if it's like, oh, he's getting close to dying. It's like, well, he's not going to die. He's not Superman yet, you know? So it's like, we know he's not going to die. So I mean, maybe they're going to do something like that to where they could just
maybe they introduce a father figure who was also a bastard, you know, or like an evil son of a bitch.
So did you hear about the end of part 6? What Tom McLaughlin wanted to do, and he had it written and everything, and he wanted to film it. And they may have even filmed it, but it never hit the cut of the film at all because they didn't like that. But there was sort of an idea of Mr. Voorhees showing up at the very end of part 6. Like, you don't see a face or anything, but it shows up, and there's a way that you find out it's like, oh, there was a father too, because I mean, obviously there has to be a dad.
Yeah.
But is that like the Michael Myers thing? Does that take away? Does the more you know take away from the mystique and the fear?
I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out when this is done and the reviews and ratings come out, and if people, I mean, the fans are gonna tell you. The fans are going to let it be known that this is garbage or this is the best thing that's ever happened to this franchise.
I feel, because look, just like Halloween, there's camps with Friday the 13th. It's not a huge camp out there, but there's a camp that only likes the first one. And
first one of what? Oh.
Like there's a camp out there that it's like as soon as they included Jason as a killer, we don't like those. But the first one was a good movie. But these are also people that are like Siskel and Ebert types, super film critic types, people that think that the redundancy of slashers is ridiculous. Whereas you and I, we look at it as sort of like a roller coaster ride. We enjoy the ride. They don't look at it like that. And so therefore there's a camp that just likes the first one. But then
well, those people, I mean, yeah, like you said, that's probably less than 1% of the fucking population.
But you're right, it's critics. But the majority of what sold Friday the 13th and has always really sold it as what has turned it into the iconic thing that it is Jason.
Yeah.
People loved the first movie. That's why they went and saw the second one. But the second one is what turned it into this sort of like, you can talk about Jason to people that have never even seen the movies and they know who Jason is. You can't do that with the character Pamela Voorhees unless it's a Friday the 13th horror movie fan. But if you talk about, Jason, like there's people that never seen the movies and know who that dude is.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, maybe this is going to go for the highbrow route. Because the first movie is, while it is still one of my favorite horror films of all time, it's more realistic. It's not about someone that's taking bullets left and right and keeps getting up and they're not, you know what I mean? And
yeah, very true.
There's no like, how did you just get over here? You were just behind me. How'd you get in front of me? None of that existed in the front.
Yeah, which was what made it scary. I mean, it was a human being, which happened to be a woman,
awesome twist.
Who was doing all of this, and no one ever got their shot at her, to try to fight back, until the very end.
And it wasn't terribly hard because she wasn't all that strong. And there's some arguments to be made. It's like, how did she do that to some of the people in the first one if she wasn't all that strong when she's fighting Alice at the end? But if you go back and dissect it, it's more or less she had posted up people in the end, kind of like Michael Myers posts his victim up and stuff like that. But anyways, maybe they're going for the highbrow route. You know what I mean? Maybe they're going to try to go for a prequel that's like sort of the way David Gordon Green brought back the seriousness of Michael Myers. Maybe they're going to try to, I know they're just trying to bank on the Friday the 13th name. I mean, let's just get that out of the way. Victor Miller's got this side of the lawsuit. He's been fighting whatever. Now he's got some control over the name Friday the 13th. He's gotten that name. I mean, it's just like you said, do we really are we going to watch it? Of course. It's got the name on it. I mean, I own the TV show that has nothing to do with Jason or Pam.
Yeah. And I think they did a Crystal Lake TV show as well, which also had nothing to do with any of the. Isn't that true? Like, wasn't there a Crystal Lake TV show?
I don't think there was a TV show
series, and it kind of fooled a lot of people into thinking that
there was a Friday the 13th series.
Yeah, and that also had nothing to do with Jason. But I swear there was something about a long time ago about a Crystal Lake series.
Not that I remember. I mean, there's like these little web things that were on the special features of the Friday the 13th movies that are like 10-minute little episodes, and they're very like web series looking. Let me just see, because this one's going to be called Crystal Lake.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, this is okay. Yeah. So this is going to be called Crystal Lake, not Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the article that you shared with me that brought this to light was it said something about, Crystal Lake is not the first time that a series has been created that didn't even have Jason in it.
Yeah,
that was the reference to the Friday the 13th series, which did 3 seasons, surprisingly, and never had anything about Jason in it.
But it was a good show because it was an anthology and it kind of had this cool premise. It was basically like Tales from the Crypt. But it had the same characters in it and they were ongoing. I mean, it's hard. I won't get into the premise of that show, but it was good. But it's just like the Halloween season of the witch thing. It's just like, don't call it Halloween if you're just going to come on. But with this one in Friday the 13th, they kind of have a pass on it because the original movie didn't have Jason in it. So it's not like they did with the Halloween. Now with the Friday the 13th series, it's like, all right, now you can't, this has nothing to do with Crystal Lake or anything. You know what I mean? Like, at least, the first movie, there's no Jason, but it's still Crystal Lake. And then they continued that narrative. But the series has Crystal Lake in it.
we've already seen an article. I shared this with you a couple of days ago, or maybe last week. That there is already talks with Peacock to have a Halloween series. You know, Halloween apparently never. Michael Myers apparently never ended. You know, the joke, and it was kind of like and I just wonder if that's true. Which one of these is going to happen first? And it's almost gonna be like okay, well, you're Friday the 13th or Crystal Lake. You're going to be the first one to do a series, and it's based on how that does, it's going to determine if so and so wants to move forward with a Halloween series also on Peacock.
Yeah, well, the only reason, because right now John Carpenter still was a producer of these last 3 films. I know that Blumhouse has the rights to Halloween right now, along with Universal. But like Blumhouse, they make the movie. Universal distributes it. You know what I mean? And Universal is Peacock. So if they did anything with this, I would assume that Blumhouse would be a part of it. And I think what they could do is, if they continue the narrative of it being in Haddonfield and the evil sort of tampering its way into different people and certain different chain of events happen because of that evil that was there in Corey. And maybe, like I said, that trilogy, if you look at it now, it's more about Haddonfield and what Michael did to Haddonfield than it is about Michael. So if they could do that, maybe David Gordon Green was setting it up for him like that with that movie.
Well, and Carpenter, as you know, originally wanted to be done with Michael after Halloween 1, and he wanted to make an anthology where every movie it could be called Halloween, but every movie is different.
Even then,
which was kind of like maybe the Season of the Witch came about and then it bombed, and it's like, well, okay, we have to bring Michael back.
Yeah, but the season they did that because the way they killed Michael in part 2. But then they came back, and so that's when John Carpenter was like, all right, let's make it an anthology. But again, if they would have done that with part 2, it would have worked.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. They did it with part 3.
You think so? Do you think this one could be essentially another kind of anthology where everything takes place? But see, they're calling it Crystal Lake.
No,
it's Crystal Lake.
It's a prequel. It's a prequel to Friday the 13th. It's not going to be an anthology. It's going to be, if it is, that doesn't make any sense. Like I said, the Halloween thing makes sense because they sort of laid that out there already. They laid that sort of evil lurks and can shift and make its way into people. That's not the idea of Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, Camp Crystal Lake. The only bad thing that ever happened there was these people with the counselors and Jason.
Yeah.
Now, like what people hated about it is when they started making it like Jason could commute, like in part 8 when she's like, I saw Jason in the water and shit. It's like she's like, I saw him as a kid in the water. It's like, come on, it's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't see him going that route. And if they do an anthology, then that's really stupid. Like, then why even use the name Crystal Lake? That's like a complete. It would be the Halloween 3 thing all over again, because that was rude. That Halloween thing was a trick. Like, at least now we can find shit out online. We can look up and we can know, at least I'm about to go see this movie and it's going to at least have Michael Myers in it. He might not be the whole movie again, but it'll have him in it. And it's the same thing with this Friday the 13th movie. But back then with Halloween 3, people were like, oh, can't wait to go see this movie. Michael's going to slash him up. And literally not even a mention of you do see Michael Myers on the TV screen when Tom Atkins is having to watch TV when he's caught by Cochran at the end and they're showing the original Halloween, the night he came home.
Well, I feel like, look, not to be a Debbie Downer, I feel like there's going to be I feel like I'm already waiting for the inevitable article to come out where what's his name? Who's doing this? Brian Fuller is going to come out with Brian Fuller leaves over creative differences because these people can't seem to get on the same page about what they want to do and tell the story because this is my story, or and all the rights battle. It's like they might have come to an agreement, but that sharing the rights thing. I get the hockey mask, you get the name, you get. I just feel like there's still something that's going to.
I think that Sean Cunningham has a better shot of calling a movie that's not called Friday the 13th, call it something else to do with Jason. I think he has a better shot of being successful with movies. He's already done it. Freddy versus Jason was successful. You know what I'm saying? And Jason Goes to Hell, it's not the best received, but it was still made. Jason X was still made. But Friday the 13th, at this point, it's just kind of like you're just. It seems like if you try to outweigh everything, it's just like, all right, well, why are you making it with Friday the 13th? Oh, well, we have a cool story to tell. It doesn't have anything to do with Jason, and it's sort of leading up to this. And it's like, so you're just extending more of the story we kind of already know with Pam. But that's what shows do these days, though, man. They extend, like, oh, we're gonna tell the origin. It's like I never thought I needed an origin of that, but I guess we're getting it. And like Reacher, or Jack Ryan, the show. Apparently people love it, but it's just like I guess there's so many Jack Ryan books about Tom Clancy that they just can keep pushing them out, kind of like the Bond movies,
Yeah. With this genre, there's nothing like that. It's
it's not that in-depth type of literature that it's all sitting on the bookshelf
that nobody can wait to see. That's not this genre, and that's certainly not this specific story.
I mean, I got to tell you, I was surprised they made a season 2 of Chucky. Not that the first season was bad, but there were some moments in it where it started to take kind of a little bit of a stretch. And it's like, you guys are kind of on this roller coaster here. You started off being like this really scary ass movie with the first one, slowly sort of got a little, worse and worse throughout. 2 and 3 are still good, but they progressively were worse than the first. And then by the time you got to the fourth one, which was Bride of Chucky, you totally shifted gears into this sort of rock and roll comedy horror gothic thing, which worked. But then you got too ridiculous with it, and you reeled it back in with Cult of Chucky and Curse of Chucky. And then now you go back a little bit, and it's starting to get too silly with the Chucky TV show. And I'm just fearing that they're going too far with it again. So I'm hoping that they don't do anything like that with this. Look. At the end of the day, I think you're right, man. I mean, look, they're going to utilize this vibe hardcore. They're going to utilize this feeling hardcore.
Oh yeah,
but no Jason in there, and we want Jason, dude. Especially it's been so long since we haven't seen him. If this comes out right away, I can see the memes and the people bitching about it on the internet, being like, "Well, it's been since 2009 we hadn't got a Jason movie, and finally we get a Friday the 13th movie." With our show with no Jason.
Yeah. I mean, I've already seen comments online from people who hating David Gordon Green for Halloween Ends, like something along the lines of like don't ever let David Gordon Green do another horror film trilogy because the bad guy won't even be in the entire last movie of it, or some shit like that. So.
No, he's getting his piece from certain people, but again, there's a camp that likes it, like me. It's not what I was expecting, but I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was a good story, and I like what they did with Michael. And look, I've rewatched it a few times now, and Michael's in it a lot more than you might remember. It's just not focused on him being the sole villain. That's all it is. There's other bad people in this movie, but Michael's still in the movie a lot. I promise you.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I watched it with you.
I know. I'm saying that.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it like a lot of people do. I've said on record that I respect that they told a different story and kind of exposed or expanded on the idea, the fact that he can't ever seem to die. And they kind of gave it a different feel than making it just a guy who, like Jason, doesn't ever seem to die. And kind of, like I said, it expanded on that specific story, and they did the whole,
spit it out, mush mouth.
Can anybody put that mask on and be Michael Myers, or is it not the same because it's not Michael Myers? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that answers that question. Like with Ghostface, anybody can put that ghost face mask on.
That's part of it. Yeah. I mean,
part
even
of
the
it.
first one, it's two people wearing it. Yeah. And this one, it's sort of like you're whoring your mask out, Michael. What's up, dude? I mean, look, there are questions to be had about that third one, but overall, I'm telling you, if you rewatch it again, I think everybody out there, if you rewatch it again, you'll probably like it more. But some people are set on it, not liking it.
What is it that if you were the guy in charge of this Friday the 13th series, or maybe not even there, let's just say this. What do you want to see with this series? What are you hoping to see?
Well, look, it is going to be called Crystal Lake. So right there, I mean, I guess it can't get too mad because you're not using the Friday the 13th name. You're just using Crystal Lake. And Crystal Lake is where everything went down with her son. So, I mean, maybe they make us feel bad for Pamela a little. You know, maybe they show that she was a good mom. She was a good doting mom. We got some comments that just showed up. I haven't seen these here. Oh my God. Somebody hacked into the YouTube page.
Uh-oh.
Says, girls, find my hot girls here. Bastards. Anyways, I just, with it being called Crystal Lake and everything, maybe they can show the parents or the mom with Jason being all cuddly and her being a good mom. I mean, honestly, if somebody told me that, hey, we want you to do this show, we want you to do a prequel to Crystal Lake, I'm not sure that I would be just super gung ho about it. Obviously, if I had like right now, I'd be like, okay, let's do this. But I just don't know what ideas just spring that I feel like are needing to be told. But I assume that Brian Fuller came to them with this, or came to Victor Miller with it. And Victor Miller's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's make some money off of Friday the 13th or Camp Crystal Lake, which he created. So I just don't know what I would do with it, because I just don't know how much interesting stuff there is to tell. Unless we see her getting away with it, or maybe they'll involve some other like assistant manager, camp counselor or stuff that's, that befriend her, and you know what I mean? You'll get wrapped up into a relationship she has with someone else, and then she betrays them and kills them. You know what I mean? They're going to have to turn it into a show if they're doing
yeah. And that's, you might have just touched on something there where she was already a killer before anything ever went down with her son. And maybe that's kind of an aspect they touch on, is that she was already an unhinged woman who would kill boyfriends, if they looked at Jason wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that her son getting killed and he was Down syndrome is what, or maybe they're going to show why he was Down syndrome. Maybe she didn't have him that way. Maybe she accidentally dropped him or something. I don't know. I don't know if they would show her being a killer beforehand. I mean, maybe they will. But again, to me,
you got to do something. They're advertising this as a prequel to Friday the 13th. They're advertising it as a in the genre of slasher horror film. You got to make somebody who's killing people.
No, what I'm saying is I think that it's going to show that group of people, the first one she killed, like that we see at the very opening, which has nothing to do, which is back in like 53 or whatever.
Yeah, while he's drowning, right?
I don't know if it's while he's drowning. I think it's maybe he had just drowned, or
that same time.
Right. What I'm saying is, so maybe it shows that whole thing. So maybe it shows like her and Jason alive for a few episodes, and maybe then it shows the whole thing go down where then they kill him, and then it shows her actually killing that entire group, because it wasn't just the two counselors she killed. There was like 7 or 8 people sitting around that cabin at the very beginning.
Or maybe it's an entirely different camp that happens before the first one, and that's the story we haven't seen yet.
What do you mean the camp before the first?
Well, okay, so when she kills those people, the counselors, at the same time that Jason was drowning, what was that supposed to be, like late 50s?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened between that and 1980?
Yeah, I don't know.
So maybe that's what they're touching on.
They could, yeah. There's all, or if they're planning on doing multiple seasons, they could do the prior stuff and showing her and Jason good. We could actually see Jason's death, and then we could see her pick off all those counselors, and then we could see what she does for a couple more seasons up until it ends with them, the first counselor showing up from the first movie. And I don't know. There's so much that they could do. It's just a matter of, do we need it, and is it going to be all that great? And like you said, part of what was great about the first one and what makes it not just a typical slasher is because you're trying to figure out who's doing this shit. And then when you find out who it is and you find out the true story, it's like, damn, this is actually sweet. This is good.
I mean, it's a classic whodunit.
But we know that Jason's going to become a killer later on. And, there's just all the stuff that we already know that I don't know what kind of surprises that they could fill in here that would just add to the lore without making it like, oh, y'all are just trying to add more shit so you can make a show.
Yeah. I mean,
they can't do it. I'm trying to think what you could do. And I just don't know, because the simplicity of it too is why it works. Oh, I had a son that was mentally challenged. These counselors were fooling around and they let him drown. And I went crazy and killed him. That's simple. I mean, there's no more complexity that needs to be there, because if it is, then you start thinking about that complexity more than you just think about somebody's crazy. They've gone mad because you killed their son. And that's scary. If you can't reason with somebody that's mad because you just killed their little kid, that's scary. You can't talk them down. You can't get the gun out of their hand or the machete out of their you know what I'm saying? And but when you start you feeling sorry for him or breaking down that character much more, you understand the character more, and then it's not as scary.
Yeah. If they start trying to make you sympathize and feel sorry for Pamela Voorhees, it's no longer a scary movie. I'm no longer scared and threatened by her as an audience member, and then the whole movie is not scary anymore.
It's like Carrie 2, The Rage. Did you ever see that?
No.
Which I think is hilarious. They call it The Rage, Carrie 2. Because Carrie died at the end of the original movie. But this is her friend, like the friend that was like a good guy friend in the original movie.
Oh, yes.
Her all grown up. And so whenever that movie was made, that's how many years it was later in the film. And it's just called The Rage, Carrie 2. And the whole movie, you're just waiting for, it's like, oh, so ironically, you kind of have similar powers. Like and then she passed. Okay. And then, so you're just waiting. You're just waiting the whole movie for her to just wreck shop. And then that's what happens. But they do it like times 10. And it's just like this inferno across the city. And she's all, and it's like, what was great about what I just watched? Kind of like when the remake of Psycho, like at least with Rob Zombie's remake, not only did he tell that pre-story about his childhood, which I could have done without that, even though I do think some of the kills were crazy. And I liked that part, like when he slits the dad's throat when he's all duct taped and everything, William Forsythe.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that shit's badass. I just don't know if I needed to see that, like, oh, poor Michael, he had an abusive childhood. It's like, I didn't want to see that. I wanted to not know that, But even after that, when he remade the film, the kills and everything were just, even when they're setting it up, it's like, oh, look, it's the guy with the glasses and the girl, and they're going to do the sheet thing, but it's a totally different way it's all done. And so therefore it's thrilling and surprising. And it happens when you don't think it's going to happen, or it does this reverse thing with it. And then in the end scene, it's just like on acid the whole time. Anyways, it's done so well that it just doesn't feel like a rinse and repeat of the original movie.
Yeah.
With Psycho, it's like, what
the remake with Vince Vaughn? Yeah.
Like if you know the original movie really well, you're actually able to say the lines on time the first time you watch that remake, because you know the movie well, because that's how precisely they remade that movie.
Yeah, it's like, did you ever hear the band Weezer do their cover of Africa?
Dude, they did a whole album.
They had
songs like that. They
added nothing to that song to make it their own, which is exactly what the Vince Vaughn Psycho remake is. Like you did absolutely nothing for creative. I I want to kind of put my own mark on it about while keeping it, within the confines of the original story. I mean, but not only did they do that, they did fucking shot for shot for shot for shot, but in color.
Literally. And got Vince Vaughn to do it. With Vince, I love you, but I mean, I wonder if you, even as Vince Vaughn, are still like, I wonder why they thought of me. Like, it's like me being like, hey, I want to be Bruce Wayne. It's like, hey guys, can I be Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
With the little bit of hair that I have left. Sorry, buddy. Yeah. So, anyways, I don't know how we got off talking about that, but just we'll see. I'm just not sure it needs to be made, and I hope that they don't just. Again, what surprises? I think we're being redundant now, but what surprises can we get? I don't see what kind of surprises that we can have that can make it work.
Well, I'll say this, and I know this is comparing apples and oranges, but just a little bit of positive hope. I used to think that there was no way a Star Wars show or Star Wars movie, for that matter, would be any good if it didn't have a lightsaber battle, because that's what Star Wars was to me, was lightsabers and Jedi. And then we got Rogue One, which I mean, until Vader showed up, there was really there was no sabers or Jedi or anything.
No, Rogue One's good.
And then so I guess
Mandalorian's mediocre. Sorry, the best parts of it is when you have Jedi stuff going on, and when
so aside from Rogue One and the final,
and even the lightsaber stuff on Disney Plus with Obi-Wan was mediocre.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of, aside from Rogue One worked really, really well as kind of a spy espionage kind of film in the Star Wars world. The only time you even see lightsabers at the very end. So I don't know. I guess perhaps there's something that they have in store that's really going to wow us. But I don't know.
No, I'd be surprised if they have anything that's going to be great. I feel like that it's just going to be a way to kind of bank off of the name the first time for Victor Miller since this lawsuit's been settled. That's my opinion. And I have love for this series, but it's more about the dude behind me, not necessarily. But I do love the first Friday the 13th. If somebody's like, I put the first Friday the 13th up there with Halloween and Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that. It doesn't have Jason, but it did open up the idea to Hollywood. Okay, these movies need to be made more, and we can make them. Halloween definitely showed people that those movies were good, but I don't know if most people understand that Halloween was very much a slow burn build of success. Like, it was only released in a small amount of theaters at first, like a very small amount, like in one little area in the county. And then I think it branched out like statewide in California. And then it started, and next thing you know, months later, it's actually caught on and people are seeing it in New York and stuff like that. But it wasn't just this thing that boomed out. Friday the 13th, from what I understand, at that point was pretty much like a pretty large release, and it hit. Like, it wasn't like and then the numbers started. It just hit, and that's why they were able to make a sequel next year.
Yeah, because Friday the 13th was only 2 years after Halloween came out, so people were like, "Oh, another one of those kind of scary movies." Yeah, let's go see it.
Still very fresh.
Do you think that they would keep? I'm sorry. So the style of Friday the 13th was also kind of like the POV kind of feel.
Oh, they'll definitely have to do that.
Do you think that they'll try to revive that and with a more modern look to it?
No, I think they'll just POV. I mean, look, man, there's not really a whole lot that's being done new in horror films. Like, there's still a lot of the same tactics that worked then still work today. It's just different styles of music, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But as far as like some of the camera techniques, I feel like are very similar. Now, you might have some like one shot things that people do where a camera moves fast over here, then comes back here, kind of like we saw like in Final Girls the other night. Some cool things for a scene. But at the end of the day, it's just like photography. It's like what works. The foreground, the middle ground, and the background, and certain things that jumping out here and there. And so POV is POV. I don't think that there's like a cool way to do POV that hasn't been done. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I can't imagine like what would they do?
I don't know. And
I mean,
and you don't need to have her. Well, like in Friday the 13th, she wasn't walking around with a mask on, hiding her face because if you saw her face, she was killing you. And that's kind of why they did the whole POV, because they didn't want you as an audience to quite see her yet. You know, once Jason dons the mask, they can start showing him seeing people from a distance. You know, and
the POV in the sequels was much more so you can see like booby shots and stuff.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's just an opportunity to show two people having sex in the woods.
One interesting thing that I would be really cool. Maybe this is the start of like a Friday the 13th MCU. Boo. You know, where like this show launches something where a movie comes out and it's linked to the show that you watched a year ago on Peacock. And from there, you know, do you think that would be weird or not? I
don't see him do that, because then you'd have to have Victor Miller and Sean S. Cunningham like really working together. And I thought that they were going to do that, but from what I understand, they've come to an agreement that Victor owns this, Sean owns this. I don't see them doing I just don't see this leading to a movie with Jason Voorhees.
But you think that Sean's still going to do his own Jason Voorhees movie?
I know he is.
And it'll be separate. And it'll be separate from this.
100%.
Yeah, because those guys can't work together for whatever reason.
No, yeah, dude. That's what I've been saying. Like, this is not going to have Jason. There will be no Jason. This is a Victor Miller thing. Sean S. Cunningham is not a part of this.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it's. I guess. I don't know. I guess.
If they decide they want to work together like Sony and Marvel, then sure. But as of right now, these are Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees, as odd as this sounds, have nothing to do with each other.
No, yeah, no. Which is why I kind of think that Sean Cunningham should make a movie and just call it Jason.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that's been talked about. There, people have talked about Jason Voorhees. People have talked about Camp Blood, because that's the nickname for Crystal Lake. People call it Camp Blood. So I mean, there's been all kinds of stuff going around that he could do, and he could do a movie just called Voorhees. Or just Jason. I think Jason would be awesome, because you did Jason X.
Yeah.
And you did Freddy versus Jason, did Jason Goes to Hell. And I honestly, if they did something like Jason Returns, I wouldn't like that. But Jason would sound cool. I need them to do something. As much as people hate me, or a lot of people give Rob Zombie hate on this, they need to do something like Zombie did with Halloween. Zombie made people realize, look, if it weren't for Rob Zombie, people would have maybe forgotten about Michael Myers. Not forgotten about him, but pushed him aside enough to where they may not have allowed him to come back. But Zombie kept him in a way, at least to where he was still around for a while. Because up until Zombie, man, the last one we had was fucking Resurrection. And so I believe that he at least kept Michael in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that 2009 Jason was 2009 Friday the 13th was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was, and again, that's one of the ones when I first saw it, I was disappointed when I walked out of the theater. I wasn't when I walked out of the Rob Zombie Halloween. I was very satisfied. Now, the Jason one I liked very quickly more and more and more the more I watched it. Now I love it. But the Friday the 13th 2009 still, man, I mean that opening scene is one of the best ever.
Yeah.
And now there's so much about that movie that I love, because now I understand what they were doing with that movie. At first, I had an expectation for it that it didn't meet, but that's wrong of me. However, you're dealing with a character just like Michael Myers. Like I said at the beginning of my Halloween Ends review, dealing with a character that a lot of people feel like they have ownership over. And I feel like that I have ownership over them. So if you do them wrong, it's like, don't do
Well, I
that.
told you, fans are going to let it be known if they f this up. I mean, it's just
We will for sure.
you
And
know.
I've been known to like everything, but I don't like everything. I just can certainly like certain things for what they are. But like with Halloween Resurrection, I don't think that that is like a good movie. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But for you and me, it's fun to put on and watch because one, we like things about the genre in general, but we can just kind of have some fun with that movie. But for somebody that's not a horror movie fan, and I'm trying to like get them into a movie that I think is a good movie, I would not dare even mention that. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
I'd be giving them something like Devil's Advocate or something like that, something that actually has some legitimate, like, this is good. Or Psycho even. Which, dude, when's the last time you watched Psycho? And I know I'm getting off topic, but
I don't know, long time.
dude, I would encourage you to try to, one of the nights when you have your time to just sit down and it's just you know what I mean? When the kids go to bed and Valerie goes to bed, I'd encourage you to put that one on, dude. It's still really, really, really watchable, really hypnotic.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I think it's going to hold up for centuries.
Hitchcock was definitely a visual mastermind for that time, especially because, like I said, while tactics and like things like POV aren't going to change what that looks like, quality of camera and what you could do with a lens and things like that have changed since then. And you were very restricted back then compared to what you have now. And what he was doing with the camera back then was pretty badass. I appreciate a lot of that stuff now that I'm, seeing it more with my own eyes and seeing the way cameras work. I see it more now, even than the first time I watched Psycho. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually seeing more. I'm just like, damn, Hitchcock, you was a bomb in Phantoms, yo. But hey, Psycho 2, that's another one too. But I'm getting off track. So, anyways, but I feel like we talked enough about this, man. Just wanted to talk about Crystal Lake coming out. So, what do you guys think? Is this going to be good? Is this going to be worth it? Do you think they can do anything with it? Hey, and look, we got 0 views tonight, so that was awesome. Maybe that'll stack up later on. But
yeah,
hey, putting some time in though. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
And hey, have a great weekend to you, man. You got any big plans?
Honestly, I don't know yet. So I think something's going on Saturday or something's going on Sunday. Sunday I'm working working a private event for that girl.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm probably going to be contacting her soon. So, all right, man. Well, hey, kudos, and I appreciate you. And you guys, thank y'all for tuning in. And remember, if life gives you lemons, I'll let you take this one, Andrew.
Make some hot, fresh popcorn.